welcome to Fast Talk, the ad hoc podcast from Roll for Sanity, where we become mythos investigators in the world of Call of Cthulhu role-playing. Folks, there's too much Call of Cthulhu for just short videos, and lots of interesting people to who we can talk. So we bring these two together here on Fast Talk and see what we can learn to improve our game. It's convention season, giving us the opportunity to meet lots of interesting people, as many as we can. So many, in fact, we have two parts to this month's Fast Talk podcast. Second part, the Cosmic Outpost materialised at the UK Games Expo 2025. Expo is the biggest role-playing, board game and card game exhibition in the UK, held in the giant halls of the Birmingham National Exhibition Centre, a great venue to a certain extent, but so much could be improved. You see, accommodation is almost prohibitively expensive, with stories for £1,000 in room costs alone for attendees. There are cheaper alternatives, but they are a distance away, so folks have to queue at the car parks, take a crowded train, or try to get a bus. It's not for the faint of heart, but everything you could ever need for game-playing pastimes can be found there, from gaming tables on which to play all the games you could ever want, and all the merchandise you'll ever need. One gaming aid, of course, is sounds needed at the gaming table, and the Cosmic Outpost was there to help the convention goers experience Sirenscape by playing some Call of Cthulhu with them. You've heard us mention Sirenscape on Roll for Sanity and, of course, over on the Miskatonic Playhouse, so it was no trouble at all to take them to a Victorian boxing contest or a spaceship failing in the future. There was some downtime to speak to a few people who wandered past the stall. I think highlight of the show was meeting celebrity keeper extraordinaire Mark Mears, who, if you've not seen him on Bookshops of Arkham or the Graveyards of Arkham actual play series of those Call of Cthulhu adventures, then you're missing out. Not wanting to disturb the man whilst he's relaxing on his day off, it was a quick thank you for his work and a picture with him. The first interview, though, was with an unsung hero of the role-playing world, a man called Tony with Dragon Slayers. Folks, we're here at the UK Games Expo with none other than Tony Atkins. Tony,
hey,
how you been doing? What are you here for at the Games Convention?
Well, this is my first convention.
It's big, isn't it?
It's massive. I'm absolutely overwhelmed. I'm so excited. I feel like a little kid in one of those big toy stores. And the thing is, I've already highlighted places I want to go in and buy stuff in. There's like an old Gamma World style game I want to get. I can't remember what it's called. And I'm trying to remember where these places are again so I can go back and buy them. It's just chaos. So I've come here because I run the Dragon Slayers community project in Exeter.
In Exeter. What is that? Role playing?
Okay, so it's basically using role playing games and touching into the therapeutic effects of role-playing games, and I use the games with adults who have mild anxiety and depression, or who are not neurotypical, basically. And I bring them together, and my GM style, it works in a particular way where I focus. Even though they're a team, I do give them different story arcs to pad out part of their background so I can focus on them and different aspects of them in the game. It's not counselling because that's done by professional counsellors, and I'm not a therapist, so it's not that type of thing. It's more about developing communication skills, socialising skills, because COVID, we've been at home, isolated, we speak to people on computers, and we're not really engaging physically with people. Developing a lot more engagement skills and confidence. And what I've noticed now, bearing in mind this is only a community project, and we do it on a Tuesday evening at Whipton Community Hall, and it's all funded by myself. So that's the other thing. So this group I have is a hardcore group, and we've been together for just over a year. And they've bonded, and they interact with one another in a way I wasn't expecting, because we went to the cinema one day to watch Nosferatu. So we bonded. And we keep in touch and we talk, and they've all got different aspects of their lives that are bothering them. A couple of they've got mixed backgrounds, mixed identities, They have different issues with anxiety and depression. And even though I'm not a therapist, I can certainly help them with certain aspects of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not breaching boundaries, certainly where medical professionals are concerned. I'm not tapping into those sorts of waters. I'm simply providing role-playing where it's fun, but enabling the players to come out of their shells and do a bit more talking, being leaders where they're normally not leaders. And so when I've asked for feedback, one of them says, well, at work, I now talk more in meetings, I lead more in projects, and I have confidence dealing with conflict. So I think what I'm good at doing is helping people get back to work. You know, when they've been ill, you know, if you've suffered with anxiety and depression, you've been off work for months, I reckon I can help you with getting back to work through playing RPGs. Because the thing about role-playing games, how much fun do we have with them?
Loads of fun. You get to be whoever you want to be, say whatever you want to be, that you might not do yourself.
And what about emotions?
Yeah.
It evokes all the emotions.
Yeah, the immersion is just there.
It's a powerful process.
Yeah.
And nice thing about Call of Cthulhu, which is one of my favorite games, love Call of Cthulhu, is that my players aren't afraid of being scared. And I'm not into gore.
No.
So I like the psychological horror aspect. So my writer comes out and develops these nice storylines where I can actually terrify them.
Yeah.
And I have lots of fun with it.
Yeah. And it's not happening to them, it's happening to their character.
Yeah, exactly. But they're going on that emotional ride. Yeah. And for those who are neurodiverse, one of them said to me, I'm enjoying the ups and downs of it. I'm enjoying the ups where my character succeeds, but the downs where my character is taken by surprise and he dies. And as a player, I don't know I'm dead until the big reveal. And then I'm just plunged emotionally into this depth. He said, I find that amazing. And I don't normally experience that in RPGs.
That is such a good project to have. Is it part of a national program?
No, it's a local program. So it's at the moment, because it's just me, it's funded. It's just in Exeter, and I fund it myself. However, I'm not alone in producing these sort of projects. So I liaise with the likes of Game Therapy UK and Dr. Gary Colson, who's here at the convention. So I've had a good chinwag with him, and I met him for the first time. We've corresponded lots, and we've had lots of team meetings and things like that online. But to actually meet up with people face to face is just like seeing you.
Yeah, here.
I haven't seen you in ages.
Absolutely
it's
ages.
Gorgeous.
Cosmic Outpost materialises at the UK Games Expo.
Yeah.
And when you do play Call of Cthulhu, what sort of characters do you like to play?
So I like playing because I like playing it safe. So I like playing the academic or the museum curator. I love that because that's my job.
I was going to say.
I'm such a sad.
Stone doesn't fall too far from the tree. We genuinely have folks around the microphone, an actual Call of Cthulhu investigator who is a museum curator. You know, you had to chase Rantikok out of the museum.
Yes.
You take that mythos out of here.
Absolutely.
People coming in asking
Give me back that book.
That book's not for you. Dear. And have you got any good war stories or tips to share with the listeners of Roll for Sanity?
I like isolating. I like tempting players to split up. It's the typical keeper, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
But it's a typical rule in the horror genre, isn't it? It's like when people go off by themselves, you know they're doomed. It's that you're being silly sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I quite like that when the players say, well, I'll go upstairs. So we did the Cracked and Crooked Manse.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's a really good starter one, isn't it?
If you can get upstairs.
And they did, and they got up in the attic, and one of them was downstairs. Not downstairs, but in the upper floor where all the antiques were. And I had the aliens in the basement. So I had one of its tentacles come and wrap around the character's legs and drag him down the stairs into the basement and lay one of its seed inside him. So his death was slow and he was possessed. I sort of changed it. And I actually had the character wake up in a hospital. The characters took him there. The other characters took him there. And he woke up, and I said, you find the doctors around you, and the nurses are dead on the floor, and you're sat upright on the bed, and you decide to dress yourself. I haven't said I'm dressing myself. No, but you do. And you're just doing your time, you're looking in the mirror, and you put your hat on, and you're smiling. Why am I smiling? I've never told you I'm smiling. You are smiling. And that's when you walk out the door. I'm dead, aren't I? Yes.
You're dead.
Yes, you are.
And we've met some more people here at the UK Games Expo. Who are you, sir?
Well, you know who I am, Cosmic. I'm Jason, of course.
And we have.
I'm Becky. I married this one. We met here for the first time ever.
Yeah.
This was our first physical meeting
Yes.
after initially meeting via a YouTube comment.
Wow.
Mhm.
And do you play games here, or what?
Yeah, of course.
Been
Yeah,
up to
yeah.
anything fun?
Well, yeah, no, that was truly hilarious. Actually, the dark room.
That was something else.
Yes.
I still don't know if I pissed myself with laughter or not. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, my cheeks are still sore from last night.
Such a good show. Such a good show.
Yes.
And what are you looking forward to seeing at the show?
Well, we bought a lot of games already.
Mm-hmm. What sort of games? Board games, TTRPGs?
Mostly board games. I've got a couple of RPGs in there as well. A couple of Call of Cthulhu Choose Your Own Adventures as well.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
Got you the leatherette of the
Yeah.
What's it? The steam gaslight.
Gaslight.
Yeah, Gaslight and the new Suture for Pale Leaves book.
Nice, nice.
And then, we've got a few other bits. We're going to do a couple of games. We've got one of them's a mega game tomorrow. We've got a seminar today.
Okay, on anything interesting?
Writing.
Writing.
Mhm.
By anyone we know?
I mean, I should know who they are, but I
Yeah, it's a
literally
general seminar.
thought of it
on
at the last
writing.
minute. Yeah, general seminar.
Wow,
I
that's
think it might be Pelgrane Press people, actually.
Lovely. You here for the entire weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Do you
I
s-
made that mistake once coming here for an afternoon, and it was not the same at all.
Okay.
I hated having to leave. It's like, but look at it.
Yeah. So people listening to this and thinking, hey, that Games Expo sounds fun.
Yeah,
What tips can you give for somebody actually
Oh,
planning to come to?
many
Save
tips.
up for 5 years beforehand.
Okay, is it really expensive here then, or is it?
If you're staying here on site and doing all 3 days, you can expect
Yeah.
to be tempted by everyone selling you things. And I've only got so much willpower when they're all so shiny and pretty.
Exactly, shiny, pretty, clickables. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
I think on a smaller scale, you could definitely cut costs by bringing your own snacks, your own drinks, even that kind of thing. Because again, the bars, it literally for a Coke, it can cost £5.
Yeah.
So definitely try and bring your own where you can.
So we need to save
Yeah.
some cash.
Yep.
What about the halls? How on earth do you tackle? I mean,
Yeah.
how many halls is it this year? 4 halls?
Well, yeah,
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of. Usually we try to avoid the hall on the Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
We just haven't had free time this morning.
So come down on a Friday or a Sunday.
Friday
you
and
say?
Sunday's good.
Friday and Sunday are usually the best for the hall,
Yeah.
and we will do games on the Saturday usually.
There's a lot of discounts on Sunday as well because everyone's trying to get rid of stock.
I don't want to take it back home, I guess.
But also
You
it,
can get a deal.
it can be
Sometimes
a
things
little
are
bit
sold
mad.
out as well.
Yeah. Things are sold out
Ah.
on the bad side, but also it can be a little bit mad with people running around
Yeah.
on a Sunday as well. But it's still quieter than a Saturday. So either Friday or Sunday is good for the halls.
Do you get to have parties in the evening with all the people, the exhibitors and everything?
Bar is usually quite as where all the role players are.
Nice.
Yeah.
And whether I don't recommend staying at the Hilton because for the
Yeah.
last 5+ years, nothing in that hotel has worked.
Oh,
No.
okay. I guess
And-
it's a busy convention hotel.
Yeah. Hence the problem with the lights last night with the dark room that weren't turning off.
Oh, bit of a shame if the dark room wasn't dark.
No.
No,
But it was still
even
hilarious.
funnier because of it, I think.
Ah.
A show that's entire premise is in the dark, and it isn't.
And
Yes.
it isn't.
We had to imagine.
A very different take.
Yeah.
So, Roll for Sanity, we play Call of Cthulhu and we play investigators. What's your type of investigator that you enjoy to play?
You know, whenever I play any role-playing game, I like to, especially at a convention, I'll pick up a random character.
The random approach. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I like to be challenged with my role-playing.
Okay, how about you, Jason?
I mean, I'm trying to get more out of my comfort zone with different characters, but I do like to pick up, say, a dilettante or an artist/musician type character.
I was going to say, one's loaded with money, one has no money.
Yes. Well, it's nothing to do with the money, it's more to do with their personality.
Okay, folks, we've got another legend in the YouTube community. We have Jordan from Jordan Sorcery. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Now, you've come to this convention, I assume, to pick up monsters and Beastmen. And did I see you do some blue sky about a different design of Beastmen?
Yeah, I've just done a history of the Beastmen, but coincidentally, someone was selling a pick and mix of classic Citadel miniatures, and I found an amazing little Beastman model.
Wow,
Absolutely awesome.
That's
yeah.
good. I remember back in the day, just picking up the original Space Marine model, and your video on it, how it changed, how it shaped when Warhammer 40k came out. It's fantastic. Now, I hear a little bird tell me that you play some Call of Cthulhu. Is that correct?
I do, yeah.
What is it about the Call of Cthulhu system that works for you? Because I remember when I was playing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, I liked it because it was percentage dice, percentage skills, you could advance. It was very similar sort of thing. Is that sort of attraction for you as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's actually, once you're into it, it's relatively intuitive when you're doing your tests. I think it's a very nice, it works really well for the horror of it all.
It does.
And we're doing the horror on the Orient Express at the moment. Yeah,
lovely. How far have you got?
We've just done Venice.
Venice.
Yeah,
nice.
so I missed a few. Not because I was too scared.
No.
but because life gets in the way sometimes, and it's such a
Absolutely.
long campaign.
It
But
is.
it just works really well. It brings it to life in such a great way.
Horror aspects are really good. So, on the Orient Express, what character are you playing?
So I've gone for a kind of, basically I've rifled through the Agatha Christie toolbox, and I've basically done a detective who is like an aging private detective. So very Poirot coded.
Lovely.
But he's been famous in his youth as a great investigator. He's maybe past his prime now. But what I liked the idea of was basically if you took Poirot, who is very logical and very rational and very much about the world as he sees it. That's how he works out his crimes and solves them. And then you say, okay, but this person's now got to factor in the impossible, the illogical, the unnatural, unknowable horror. How does that affect the mind of such a sort of clinically logical person? And at what point does he snap?
Yeah, because that's the great internal turmoil. I'm playing a doctor on the Orient Express, and he's trying to figure out, but how can things be? How can this be so longevity? That doesn't explain science. It's slowly coming around to the fact that there's something a bit weird out there. But so if you're not playing your Poirot type and you were doing a one-shot, what sort of character would you be drawn to?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to kind of play a bit of anything, really.
Okay,
In a Cthulhu, in a horror setting, I think it can be really fun to just sort of test the boundaries of what you're comfortable with, because you're going to be uncomfortable anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
in an action RPG, like I tend to go for snipers and long-range folks. I don't like to get too much into the muck of it, which I guess is why horror is quite good for me, because if the fighting has started, you've already lost.
Yeah.
So I will play pretty much anything in a Cthulhu game.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, and have a good rest of your convention.
Thanks so much.
Joining us now, we have Jeff from
Hello.
Final Boss Fight. Jeff, how is your convention going?
It's been great so far. I've been seeing the Sirenscape stand, said hello to people on the Chaosium stand, all the essential stuff.
Absolutely. You've got a stand here.
We have, yes, Final Boss Fight. We have a stand, I'm looking at it right now. This is great for a radio interview because
Actually looking straight across at the...
across at it, yes.
Wonderfully.
Can
Isn't
wave
it
at them.
huge? I love all the flashing lights and the neons here.
I know.
It's a very simple sort of stand. What are you bringing to the convention then?
We are bringing several things. We are, of course, bringing ourselves to the convention. So if you were here, you could have met us. If not, we'll see you again at another convention. We are bringing our very own D&D 5e setting that we've built over the last year.
What's the
It's
setting?
called Tamrinor, and it's a fantasy setting, but with our own flavour on it. So giving our own twist to races, to towns, to some class rules. It's the first book of a series that we're proposing, so we'll be bringing up more and more as the time passes. We also brought some handicrafts. Some of our community are very great artists and crafters, so we've got some great handicrafts here. We've got books, notebooks, we've got 3D printed accessories, we've got hand crocheted dice bags, hand crocheted collectibles, and last but by no means least, I have my own book there that I've written.
Which book is that?
It's called It Comes. It's a collection of stories based on Call of Cthulhu and the works of H.P. Lovecraft that I wrote during lockdown, actually.
Yeah.
It got inspired because it was very much on my mind. That's very much when I got into Cthulhu. So, like, thinking about that, I got inspired by a few things. And, I wrote a book out, and it's out. It's out in paperback, or if you're an Amazon Kindle fan, you can find it on there for...
What's it called?
It's called It Comes.
Hopefully,
by Jeff Bridges.
there should be a link in the show notes, folks. I do try and do show notes. Don't always remember, but COVID was a weird sort of time. I think we all dealt with the existential horror of people dying all over the world. There was nothing we could do about it other than not interact with people in many, many different ways. You know, I started thinking about Roll for Sanity. You actually wrote some books. Did you get up to the Innsmouth Literary Festival?
I haven't had the chance yet, no. I saw they had a stand last week at Chaos Con, so definitely something to consider, but I haven't had the opportunity yet to.
Yeah, that's right. Now, when you sit down and play a game of Call of Cthulhu, what sort of characters do you like to play?
So I'm actually more of a forever keeper than a player.
Oh, you poor thing!
In fact, I've played Call of Cthulhu as a player a grand total of 4 times, and the first in-game one was at Chaosium Con. In-person one was at Chaosium Con last week.
Wow, which game did you play?
It was Alpaca in the Sheepfield by the Miskatonic Playhouse's very own John Hedge.
John Hedge, yes. Did you survive?
I did not know. I can't give spoilers out in case somebody's...
Well, it's Call of Cthulhu, folks. We can naturally assume we're going to die some kind of horrible death.
I will say 50% of the players did survive.
Oh my gosh, wow, that was a very successful game. Usually most people just die. But okay, and did you enjoy being a player? Because
I did, yes.
I always think sometimes keepers should do more playing, just like players should run a game. What's your thoughts on that?
I do think so, yes. I do enjoy playing it because one of the things that draws me to Call of Cthulhu specifically is the whole idea about the characters get worse over time, unlike other games where they get better. In Call of Cthulhu, they get worse, and it's just that play into what that means for the character. And for me, it's the idea that as your sanity score goes down and your Cthulhu Mythos score goes up, it's like your mind is opening to the truth of the universe. Like the dam around your mind is breaking until eventually it collapses, and it's like what that means for the character. And it's like one thing I try and encourage in my players in my games to play into that a bit, or to show them what the game can be capable of. In fact, one of my favourite stories from my games, if I may. One of the players had a character based on Indiana Jones, like a legally adjacent Indiana Jones. But
what an original idea!
Their significant person was a fictional Indiana Jones type character.
Okay, where do they go with that?
So they want to be like an adventurer archaeologist, get their name out as a famous person. But there's one place where that character took a sanity hit and took a bout of madness.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, I said, okay, you see a figure in your background and it's your significant person who you know to be fictional. And that actually shook the player as well as the character because they didn't realise that it could go, that sort of thing could be possible.
Yeah. Call of Cthulhu really brings out that level of weird. At Chaosium Con, I think we were both in the writing seminar they were having, and it is, where do you dial up the weird? How do you dial up the weird? So expect that from your keeper, folks. When things start getting a little weird, you can expect that something is going to be happening soon. If you were going to play a one-shot, though, which type of character would you like to play? What occupations do you go for?
I'd like to go for my very first character for Call of Cthulhu, which still has a bit of a place in my heart, was an elderly Miskatonic professor, so very traditional, traditional sort of researcher, high intelligence, high education, high library use. But just that, that idea that, he tries to see everything through a lens of logic and reason, but then when he's confronted with something that's outside that's when the interesting stuff happens.
And do you play Call of Cthulhu on the final boss fight?
We do, yes. I am running 2 campaigns at the moment.
Campaigns, you nutter!
I know. Oh, it gets even better. One's Horror on the Orient Express, which is my first, and the other one was Massive Nyarlathotep.
You couldn't have tried something a little bit more simple to be running simultaneously. Oh, goodness me.
And there's the occasional one-shot thrown in there as well. Some of the Miskatonic repository ones, some of the Blasphemous Tomes ones occasionally. So when I can, but as usual, as you well know, time is a thing.
Yes. If we all had infinite time, we'd be fine. What's the website address?
www.finalbossfights.co.uk.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
great
much.
rest of the
Thank
convention.
you very much.
Another thing I want to do here on Fast Talk is to break up the show with a little bit of music that won't get me a copyright strike. Fortunately, there are some fantastic creatives to help us do this. So here is Wild Things by Roll for Sanity guest C.M. Arnold.
Geckos climb the walls, storm clouds gather near, ghosts dance in the halls, there be wild things here. Moths dance round the flames, moving ever near. Madness takes us all. Now we are wild things here.
That was Wild Things by C.M. Arnold from the All Hail the Songbird EP on SoundCloud. So it's the final morning of UK Games Expo here in Birmingham. The halls has just opened. We've had the tannoy announcement. So the folks are coming in. I see them in the distance, streaming through. We've got the Call of Cthulhu stand in front of me, the Pelgrane Press Trail of Cthulhu stand to the right of me. People are frantically racing through the halls as we walk our way through, just taking stock, because it's been great here. You just bump into people, and they tell you the story. People running Masks of Nyarlathotep, running Orient Express. You just say, how are you doing? How far have you got? Oh, we've passed Venice, we've done this. And just exchanging war stories of all the things that people get up to on their game as they stop past and say, yeah, It's been an easy job to just say, what do you play? And folks will just tell you all about their games. Really, really great, good fun. But yeah, more of UK Games Expo. If you've read the Roll for Sanity blog, then you've heard of Trail of Cthulhu, where the Cosmic Outpost is in the Eternal Lies campaign, a globe-trotting story where secrets of 30 years awake to reveal a global network of evil. The system and adventure is published by Pelgrane Press, and just down the aisle from Sirenscape was the Pelgrane Press stand. I took the opportunity to catch up with Kat, who was very nearly single-handedly running the stall on the Sunday of the convention. And we have found Pelgrane Press here, the UK Games Expo. I'm here with Kat. Kat, how are you doing? How's your show been?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, it's been really good. It's always great to be here to chat to people about our games and to meet people who are playing our games and hear all of their stories that come out of their tables.
Amazing, amazing. Now, on Roll for Sanity, we play the worlds of Call of Cthulhu, and you have Trail of Cthulhu. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Trail of Cthulhu is a 1930s based mythos role-playing game. It uses the Gumshoe system, which is our investigative mystery solving system, and it is playable in two different modes. So you can play it in the more classic pulp mode, which is your kind of shotguns versus Cthulhu, going in all guns blazing, and a little bit more lighthearted. The players are a bit more empowered. But you can also play it in what we call the purist mode, which is very Lovecraftian. It's very bleak. You're going to go mad or die if you're lucky, right? Because the alternative is worse, much worse. So our products are kind of, they're all playable without specifically focusing on either of those modes, but I feel like that's a really great feature that we have. So some of our adventures are more purist tailored or more pulp tailored, so you can choose the style that appeals to your gaming group better.
Yeah. And you have the fantastic Fall of Delta Green, another aspect of the Cthulhu mythos to play. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we worked with Arc Dream Publishing, who do the amazing Delta Green. And again, because we lean heavily into the more purist Lovecraftian aspect, Delta Green is a really natural companion. So we took the Delta Green canon, I suppose you could say, and we looked at the period of the 1960s, just before the infamous Delta Green fall
incident. Yes,
incident, as we call it. So it's very 1960s, which was just such an amazing time to be role playing in. It's the Vietnam War, it's revolutions, students uprising, the Democratic National Congress, 1968, all of that period of revolution and excitement and dynamism is captured in the Fall of Delta Green. But because it's Delta Green, you still have that, just the real toughness of... The thing that I love about Delta Green is that you really feel what it would be like to actually be a human who had to deal with the mythos. It shows you how it strips all the humanity from you. It leaves you completely bare and exposed and broken and battered. And that, I think, is how it would really be. It's a very realistic take on the mythos, which I love. So we've tried to really incorporate that into the kind of 1960s. So on the one hand you have the psychedelics, and on the other hand you have the terror of what was happening around the world.
Yeah. And you have some solo play books to get people started, is that right?
So we're actually working on a Gumshoe solo entirely system. So what we have at the moment are duet books. So they're for a GM and a player. So we've got Cthulhu Confidential, which is it's very noir inspired. So it's kind of, you have three protagonist characters. You've got classic detective in the Marlowe style, Dex Raymond, and he's in Los Angeles in the 1930s. Then you have like a reporter called Vivian Sinclair who's in New York in the 1930s, and she's an investigative reporter. Kind of, you can choose the level of realism you want with the sexism of being a woman in the 1930s, being out there, being professionalism, but otherwise she's just fighting the mythos, I suppose, using her brain. And then you also have Langston Wright, and he's a World War II vet, black, who has just come back to the US after having been a hero, fought for his country in World War II, and he comes back to the Jim Crow law Washington, D.C. in the 40s. So again, we have kind of rules in that for how you can lean into the racism that he's experiencing at the time, and that really informs his play. It's like, like Dex Raymond is fighting the mythos, but Vivian Sinclair is fighting sexism in the mythos, and Langston Wright is fighting racism in the mythos. So, it's just, again, it's trying to bring in that more realistic, humane element, like what it's like to be a human with your own stuff to deal with while you're trying to fight the mythos. Or if you just want to go down the pure, black and white, smoking detective kind of 1940s classic noir gumshoe style, you can just go straight down that way without any of the other stuff.
And when you get to sit down and play, what kind of investigator do you like to create?
Ooh, wow, that's a really great question. I suppose a lot of the time I love to play characters that are smarter than me, like the kind of more bookish kind of can sit down and absorb information.
Surrounded by books.
Surrounded by books. I love Bookhounds of London for that. It's just, that I suppose as a publisher, I love books. I love everything about them. I love the way they look. And so the idea of them being full of information and just being the kind of person who can sit down and spend hours researching and then process all of that information into a way of solving a mystery is, that's the kind of thing I love to play. But I do end up playing a lot of idiot dilettantes as well, because that's just fun.
It's just fun. And having fun is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you for your time.
And another person we bumped into here at the UK Games Expo, it's Maddie from A Game of One's Own. How are you, Maddie? How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yes, I just had the live show for A Game of One's Own earlier today, where we were playing Haunting, which is a duet tabletop game by Arcane Atlas Games. So I and my co-host for that episode, Michelle Kelly, were alternately playing the house trying to devour its occupants, and the occupants themselves trying to fight back against the supernatural horrors of the house.
Dare I ask who won?
Well, at the end, the final occupant did manage to return the house to its eternal slumber. So I think the house lost in this case, but it got a lot of wins along the way.
Okay. And was that in front of a live crowd?
Yes, it was a nice bijou, intimate crowd, but it was, we had a lovely response and it was very fun.
And do you get some input from the audience, or is it just mainly reactions?
We did get a few excellent names from the audience. I think Cassidy McGraw was the name of a private investigator that someone came up with, and Paisley, I can't remember the second name, but Paisley as a first name for an old thespian was just perfect.
And have you been at the convention for the whole weekend, or just coming up for a day, or?
I'm just here for the day,
Marvelous.
So I've already bankrupted myself, because I know that I'm only here for the day, so I'm just like, I'm not going to be able to see this stuff again, so I need to get it now.
Get it now, spend whilst you can. Has there anything caught your eye whilst you've been here?
I picked up a copy of Don't Play This Game, which is a solo game, I believe from the same folks who make Shiver. And it's a solo game where you're essentially the star of your own found footage horror movie.
Nice.
So I think definitely kind of cousins to Cthulhu in a sense.
Absolutely. And speaking of Call of Cthulhu, when you are playing Call of Cthulhu, remind us, what's your favourite type of investigator to play?
Ooh, I don't know. I think shamefully the only time that I have played is Drop of Nelson's Blood, and that was an incredible game, and I absolutely loved it. And I enjoyed being a sort of a warm-hearted soul who could easily be horrified by the vicissitudes of the supernatural realm.
There we go. Well, thanks for stopping by, and have a great rest of the convention.
Thank you so much, you too.
Attention, UK Games Expo 2025 trade halls are now closed. Please could all members of the public and any children that are here with visitors be taken from the hall, please. The trade halls are now closing.
After that announcement, the hard-working games companies had to push that extra mile as we put on high-vis jackets not to get squashed by roaming forklifts, as it was a scramble to get the stands down. On the Sirenscape stand, myself, Steve, Linz, AJ and Al packed the stand and was ready to get away quite quickly. Absolute pleasure with working with these folks. Can't wait to see what happens next year for the 20th anniversary of the Games Expo. That just about wraps up our Force Talk at the Con Part 2. Huge thanks to Steve and Sirenscape for having me on the stand, and thanks to all the wonderful folks that came along and said hello and everyone brave enough to be interviewed. There should be a show notes page on the website, so feel free to visit the blog at www.rollforsanity.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll roll for sanity again soon.